Hi, I'm Christopher West. I'm a graphic designer. I'm based here in Stockholm. I'm 39 years old. I'm the father of two boys and I have a beautiful wife. I do music and I do graphic design in life, basically. I applied for Konstfack twice and I applied to Beckmans once and I didn't get in. I knew Peter Ström from Konstfack and he went to the Rietveld and I known Peter since way back when because he was in a relationship with the older sister of my best friend. So I know him since, a long time. So the Rietveld was kind of on my radar. I actually went there for open day with my then girlfriend the spring before I applied. And we went there and I kind of decided to never apply for the Rietveld. Then I don't know what kind of impression I got really. I was kind of set back by the fact that the Rietveld has it has the basic year in like within the 3-year bachelor degree, which meant that when I came there, I kind of expected something like Konstfack or Mejan. My then girlfriend was at Mejan, the art academy in Stockholm. And I kind of expected that sort of university-style art school. And I was met with basically 18, 19-year-olds running around doing weird like art projects in the hallways. And I was like, what is this? What's going on? And then the graphic design, I had no experience in graphic design, like, I had no idea. But it was very conceptual and I just did not get it. So I went home again, like, I can't apply there. But then I applied for 2 years in a row to Konstfack and I wasn't even close to get in. I went to the interview at Beckmans and I was like super sure of myself. I did a basic year in Stockholm, but then I was so sure of myself that I was gonna get in, and I was completely fried at the interview. Pretty much kind of humiliated, actually. And then I was back at my day job at IKEA being miserable, and I saw that they had like some spaces left at the graphic design department at the Rietveld. So I decided to just go for it. So I basically sent the same portfolio as I sent to Beckmans. And it was very short of time, so I had to go down there for an interview. And I'll never forget that experience because I went into a pretty newly renovated Rietveld Academy. It's an absolutely amazing building. And I met Linda van Dersen and Floor Coleman. And they were seated at this one table and they removed all the inner walls at the graphic design department, so it's this huge open space and this light coming in, this beautiful windows. And they looked at my portfolio when I was like explaining everything slide by slide basically. And after the portfolio, Linda just put her hand in the portfolio, said, "You can be silent now." And then she just flipped it through, and then she looked me in the eyes and asked what year I wanted to begin. So the level, like the difference in attitude between the Rietveld and Beckmans was worlds apart. And I just went for it. And it was the toughest thing I've done up till then, the first half year, because I kind of had a foot in Stockholm and a foot in Amsterdam, and you know. Then I just let go and I was done as well. And I just went for it, and it's the best thing I've ever done. Yeah, My dad was also an artist, and my grandfather on my father's side was a graphic designer. He worked for his entire life at Volvo Flygmotor in Trollhättan as a graphic designer. So yeah, design is the one thing I've done in life that kind of feels easy to me. But coming from an artist family also meant that it took me a lot longer to actually go to art school. So from age maybe 13, 14, all I wanted to do was music. So I spent all my energy in doing that up until maybe 24 or something. And as I mentioned, I lived in a relationship with an artist, and she was going from preparatory art school into Maja. And she kind of pushed me to explore that route, basically. And I was in a band, and we were kind of on the verge of making a life out of music, but ended up not, because a lot of reasons, but it was the time when the music industry collapsed completely in '03. So we basically were promised a lot of money and record deals, and we just ended up getting nothing. And that happened a few times, and I got so fed up with sharing all the creative decisions with a bunch of other people. So I wanted to explore something, a creative life, where I could actually be in control of my creative process. And as I said, like layout, design, that sort of thing, it's the only thing I've tried where it just feels like I have some sort of feeling to it. Yeah, a lot less than I kind of expected, maybe. I've only done a few record covers, like 2 of them that I am proud of, the ones I showed you, or the one I showed you, and another one for the same band. I've done another one in Amsterdam, which is, I'm not showing to anyone. But I also keep music. I still play music regularly, and I will never stop doing that. I have a band, and we meet every week, and it's a very important part of my life still. It's just something that kind of, now it serves as a vent maybe more than anything else. It's once a week, and we're all like, we all have children, we're all in the same phase of life, small children at home, and professional careers, and so music kind of serves a different purpose now. It's definitely not a career path. It's not something that's filled with expectations or hopes. It's filled with love for actually making music. So it's amazing. To me, there's very little actual connection. Of course, you can do artwork for musicians, but it's kind of hard work for little pay. But on a creative level, I think the only thing that kind of is a similarity is that it's a creative expression that comes from me. There's no similarity in how that works. Doing design work is a very, very, very different thing. I think I play music fairly graphical, as I look at the way I place my fingers on the guitar neck in patterns. So there's a slight correlation maybe, but other than that, it's just creative expression, which is the similarity. And like, one of the things that keep amazing me with music is the fact that I do a full days of work here on Wednesdays when we have band practice. Then I go home, I pick my kid up from daycare, cook dinner, and then I go to the rehearsal space, and then we have a beer and we talk a bit, and then we do band practice for 2.5 hours. And we basically, every time we meet, we create new music. And I cannot really actually comprehend where that energy comes from, because I shouldn't be able to do that, I think. I should be, creatively spent after a day like that. But I'm not. And it's just amazing that it works like that. But I think it kind of it's from the fact that it's from two different sources of creativity. They kind of work in some weird sense of harmony. Mm-hmm. And we're kind of tired dads, so all the songs are kind of low tempo. We realize, we have discussions about this. We should make up-tempo songs. Yeah, we need to do band practice at 10 o'clock in the morning, otherwise it's not gonna happen. It definitely, part of it comes from the fact that I am a trained print designer. So everyone that was our teachers at the Rietveld were print designers and book designers. It was definitely the thing that was cool there. And for a lot of the people that went to that school, it was the reason to go there. And many of the people that were our teachers there are still the best book designers in the world. Hi, Julia. It's really, it makes an impact on you. I think I've always loved the book as a medium. I think might actually come to a point where there's a correlation between music and design here, because what I love about books is that there's a narrative, and in music creation you always have the time narrative as well. The thing with books is that you can design them in one, or think of them in one sort of linear reading. No one reads a book like that, so a book always has these thousand ways of kind of coming into them. So it's a complex design piece, but it's also enormously connected to all design practice and history. So, as a designer, I'm basically always typography first. There's usually a fair amount of type in books, so great. There's always a need for grid and that sort of layout structure, which is also something it just plays in my strength and my passion with design. The process is, it's very different. Mm-hmm. Depending on the client and depending on the type of book. Also kind of making the distinction between what's magazine design and what's book design and what's artist book design, which is also kind of a different animal. Like when I do this big design books, as the Stockholm Design Lab book, or me and Björn Kusoffsky made this book for the artist duo Birgit and Bergström. That's a very controlled environment in terms of design, as Björn is a creative director, and then there's the content either from the artist duo or the design practice, and there's always a lot of content. And one of the biggest tasks for me then is to kind of select content and make a coherent design from it. But magazine design is always a lot more time pressured, and always I think good magazine design is definitely more kind of contemporary and more daring, maybe. So it's different in that aspect as well. It should be a bit louder, maybe, in terms of design. And artist books, again, they're basically just designing or assisting the expression of an artist, maybe. So it's super different. I don't have a like an absolute answer, obviously. It's a tricky one. You're spot on, by the way. It's true. It's a fact, and it's something that I am constantly in maybe conflict with. We discussed briefly before the fact that we, as designers coming from the Rietveld and Amsterdam, we miss a design discourse here, and that's what you're talking about, is basically. I think one of the differences here is that the agency culture here is very, very strong. There's a lot of design and advertising agencies here, and there's not that many mid-size independent design studios. Hardly any, honestly. So in other cities, mid-size work would maybe go to mid or big size independent agencies or studios. They go to bigger branding agencies today here in Stockholm. So the rebranding of museums or like classical gigs for independent, bit bigger established design studios that are still freelancers at heart in practice. We don't get to do that stuff here. That goes to bigger design agencies, and that kind of creates a very bland expression, I think. Very, very watered out, ad style expression in design. I mean, let's face it, we live in an ultra-capitalist time. We do. It's like the idea of being an entrepreneur and startups being run by multi-billionaire risk capitalist companies, that's the reality, and everyone wants to be an entrepreneur, basically, except me. I don't know, I don't do this because I want to become rich. I really don't. I do it because I love doing graphic design, and it's not something that I say, really. But I also don't want to kind of isolate myself. I'm not interested in only doing small size, non-budget projects, because I think graphic design and generally good design is about mass production and visibility and making a difference. I really do think that. So I am interested in existing in a bigger kind of context. But it's kind of hard because I am only me. My studio is only me. So as soon as I do bigger jobs, the scale is a huge problem. So I recently refreshed the brand identity for Weekday, which is an H&M brand. And it was super tough to do at that point because it's such a complex assignment. So I wish I was 3 people, But at the same time, my size kind of keeps a cap on what I can take on. And I also know from experience that if I take on bigger jobs, I cannot be a designer. I have to be a strategist. I have to be a planner. I have to be an economist. And I'm honestly uninterested in that. I want to keep my hands on design. I care about details and I care about the profession. And I know that if I wanted to have a career and a bigger pay, I should have become a fancy art director somewhere, but it's not me.
Okay.